Cool. Um, I got my two quick demos. I know we're way over time. I'll just try to keep this super brief. Okay, so we have this dash. This is a completely contrived dashboard, three copies of the same query that are extremely large. There are 50,000 rows with the limit hit, and they're extremely wide. So, most of our customers are not building dashboards like this, but just as an exercise to try to improve general performance. Rob and myself have been experimenting a bunch with things we can do. Um, I should have also, I guess, prefaced all of this. We've been doing a little bit of a spike around improving like Viz performance, and as performance projects tend to go, a lot of what you learn is not that it's just about improving like the Viz rendering directly. A lot of it's how like large data sets interact with the UI generally. So on this dashboard, you can see like tooltips render kind of laggy. Um, the highlighting of which tile I'm hovering over is very laggy. And so if I'm like trying to grab one of these tiles to move it and I click and start dragging, which I just did, nothing's happening. Oh, now it's finally dragging. Um, So we've been experimenting with a couple modes. These are out there in the wild, but they're all behind flags. So the first is disabling tooltips when you're in edit mode. Um, and so, when I refresh the page here, you're still going to see it takes like a moment for everything to render and then kind of settle. So let's just give it a second. So now in theory, it's settled. So you can see as soon as I mouse over, the highlight shows up. And if the demo gods are with me, I can just kind of like drag this thing around with no latency. So that's a much bigger improvement. Same with like resizing, although here you'll see we start to like we hit these janky spots where um, React and our charting library are trying to render, and so like things suddenly freeze up. So that brings me to my next demo, which is this sort of beta-ish mode that we're experimenting with. We have some design improvements we want to apply, but again, initial rendering still slow. But once everything's settled, we get that nice fast selection because I still have tooltips disabled. But when we resize, we swap all of the viz out for these placeholders. So now we never hit that janky, slow, choppy rendering. Um, the downside is once I release, obviously they all have to re-render. And in this like exaggerated case, that takes a moment. I can also just like drag and drop at will now. A couple quick notes here. Again, behind flags. We're gonna experiment with keeping any element that is not being resized or moved visual or visualized so that it doesn't turn into a placeholder, and only swap the one that's being resized with the placeholder. And then the last thing I just want to point out super quick is we did make an affordance for the case when you're trying to edit a chart that has tooltips on a dashboard. So like this, you can see this chart's tooltips are disabled, this chart's tooltips are disabled. But because this one is selected, the tooltip appears, and I can even go in, I can edit the tooltip, and you can see the update. But if the gods are with me and I select a different chart, so now this one, oh, gods are not with, oh, sorry, I lost the flag. Is Um, okay, so now this one, tooltips are disabled and tooltips are enabled here. So you can go, I can show you how to do this on your customer instances if you want to experiment with the flags. Again, often performance is not just strictly about like the the rendering of a thing like viz or like filters or colors, and it's often about this intersection of like actions people are trying to take on things like a dashboard, like drag and drop, resize. um, this is in line with some of that work I previewed earlier, where we're trying to also experiment with like auto agging data sets to make them smaller. And there's another spike of work we're planning on doing in the next couple of weeks to effectively offload where we do the rendering. So that initial slow rendering that you can see, like when I stop dragging, in theory would be significantly faster as well. So stay tuned.